There was a family with much confusion, as you will see. It was a mama and a papa and a boy.
Well, greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey and from me. Mickey and I have had a very, very exciting time at lunch today, because we had lunch with some friends at the Mandrake, which is a very chic boutique hotel on Newman Street in Fitzrovia. It is a work of art. The whole hotel is a work of art. The dining rooms are works of art, literally. Each private dining room, and we were in one, is done by a different artist. I mean, just amazing. The whole thing is the end in chic, and that's why it is one of the chicest places to have lunch, to have dinner, and to stay. And I have to say, I loved it, and so did Mickey. Did you like the... Mwah! Now, the fallout from the Meghan and Harry latest saga, of course, continues and is going to continue, because we now have Buckingham Palace having, well, I won't jump the gun on that, actually. I will not jump the gun on that. So let me plunge right in an orderly fashion by saying, Shoshana Bloom wants to know, what did the announcements of William's children say? This, of course, goes right to the fact that there is not one indication in any of the announcement or congratulations that that baby was produced by Meghan. So I will answer the question. William's children, all the birth announcements said that the Duchess of Cambridge was safely delivered of a blah, blah, blah. Princess Eugenie's birth announcement, same thing. It's the standard thing with all royal babies. The birth announcements say that the mother was safely delivered of a child. So, on that note, I will say that Jean Gemmell, I hope the name is pronounced correctly, says, 9th June at 9 a.m, BBC One News. Palace spokesman said Queen was not asked for and did not give permission for her name to be used for their child. That is correct. That is correct. The palace did announce it. Buckingham Palace did give the information to the BBC. The BBC has accurately reported what they were told by Buckingham Palace. Amid scabies, otherwise known as Harry and Meghan's Minister of Propaganda, or maybe we should actually just call him Goebbels, their Goebbels, because really he is their Goebbels. He's waded in very authoritatively, now adopting not only the plasticity of Meghan physically, but also the plasticity of her tone. And he is now looking down at everybody else from the lofty heights of Meghanania. And he has decreed that the fact that the BBC and the palace have reported something that Harry does not agree with. Well, of course, he wasn't going to agree with it, was he? That means that the palace is out of touch with what's going on within the family. I mean, whatever next, whatever next. I mean, it's just, this lurches from farce to farce, but there's something awfully distasteful about it. And you have these really rather uppity people are snaring at everybody, looking down from the lofty heights of plasticity and pretentiousness. Oh, I, the great amid scabies, on behalf of the great Meghan, another study in plasticity. Both of them are absolute peons to procedures. Really. I mean, whatever happened to good, natural, down-to-earth unpretentiousness? Well, I know what happened to it. When Meghan Markle walked in through the door, it fled through the window. Well, my understanding as well is that Harry, through Schillings, and I know the founder of Schillings. I've known him for many years, Keith Schilling. He's actually a really rather nice guy. And it's a very punchy libel firm and defamation firm. And they have waded in on Harry's behalf, threatening. Well, that will be very interesting because this seems to be one of those occasions where recollections vary. So let's see how this one plays out. Because Harry is, as we all know, extremely aggressive. And Meghan has actually defiled the Queen and defiled everybody, in my not so humble opinion, by naming the child after the Queen's nickname. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to it, and I am going to state it boldly. Red Star 72 says, some spokesperson has claimed that naming babies after older relatives' nicknames is common in West Indian families. Perhaps Lady C can enlighten us about this, being Jamaican. Well, first of all, my dear, may I make the point. Meghan is not West Indian. Harry is not West Indian. Why are they culturally appropriating customs that have nothing to do with them, even if such customs existed, and they do not? My great-grandmother's family was one of the very first settlers of Jamaica, when Jamaica was not called Jamaica, when it was Spanish. In the early 1500s, Jews from Spain went to avoid the Inquisition to Jamaica, which had been discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1494. Jamaica has the oldest colony of Jews in the Western world, and my great-grandmother's family is one of those families. In fact, most of the Jews of Jamaica are interconnected because, of course, it was a very small community and they all intermarried. But that's by the by. I'm not giving you a history lesson about Jews in Jamaica. I know of no one ever who has nicknamed a child and then used that nickname on an official document. It is déclassé. It is just not done. I suppose that Meghan's category of person might think it's classy, in much the same way that I'm sure she drinks tea with her finger cocked out. It's not classy. It's tacky. It's absolutely tacky. And no, it's a very poor excuse. It's actually more than a poor excuse. It's yet another fabrication. And this time, it's not a misremembrance. It's a bold fabrication. Nobody, insofar as I am aware, and I've made the point that on one side of my family, I am from the most ancient of all of the West Indian families. And I know of no one who has ever named their child after a loved one's nickname. So now that we're clear about that, let's go to Marion, who says, Meghan reminds me of Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction when she says, I won't be ignored, Dan. Got it in one, Marion. Got it in one. Got it in one. There is no doubt about what we are being treated to. The bunny boiler is boiling the bunnies, and it's called hot news. It's one thing after the other. It's genius. It is genius. It's also deeply discomforting and very disturbing, but it is genius. Sally Robertson says, the message is also that the Queen didn't want them to use royal, so Meghan says, okay, then I'll use your private name and I'll trademark it. Checkmate. I can't stand that she uses a word that I'm not going to use. It is the surname of a very famous English writer of the 19th century. Let's put it that way. And it refers to a category of woman that I would hardly call admirable. Then she says, she truly is a sociopath. She never met a rule she didn't break. Ugh. Well, that's actually a very shrewd observation to make, because one of the signs of sociopathy, in fact, psychopathy, as well as sociopathy, but even more psychopathy than sociopathy, is the fact that people with antisocial disorders have to break rules. They have to. They just cannot abide having a rule and not break it. And I have, in a previous video, told you about, to those of you who know what I'm speaking about, a friend of mine who is a psychiatrist, who was one of the leading psychiatrists at one of the mental hospitals here, that criminal for the criminally insane. His specialty is psychopathy. And he told us of an incident with one of the true psychopaths that he has met. And he says he's met very few. Most people are not really psychopaths fully fledged, or indeed sociopaths fully fledged. But every now and then you find one who is. They can't abide by rules. They have to break a rule. They also have another mechanism in place. They will not back down. They will not allow resistance to conquer them. Therefore, if, for instance, you come across a real sociopath or a real psychopath and say they've broken into your house. If you resist, it goads them to ever greater heights. And it has to be said, Meghan's conduct leads one to conclude that she actually has definite sociopathic tendencies. And yes, I think you have spotted something. There is a link. When she was told that the royal brand could not be used, she's found a way to work her way around it and not only use it, but do the Margaret Thatcher victory sign. That's the Margaret Thatcher victory sign. I think in America you do something with a certain finger, but we're not going to go there. Maureen Ingleston says, so are we to assume that Harry and his wife condone racism and bad parenting? They must. When they are honouring the family they have accused of it by naming their daughter after the head of that family. Very well spotted, Maureen Ingleston. Very well spotted. Yes, if it's a Tuesday and it works for Harry and Meghan, good is bad. And on Thursday, bad is good. And on Saturday, good is good. And on Sunday, bad is bad. The variability of it all, the inconsistency of it all, the actually frightening lack of any thread that would indicate consistency, moral compass, or any of the finer things of life. I'm afraid I see no evidence of any of it. I see a lot of hot air. I see a lot of silly words that are supposed to mean something precious and mean absolutely sweet something all. It's absolutely mind-boggling that they would criticise the royal family. And the Queen in particular has been criticised by Harry for her bad parenting skills. I think he called it genetic pain. Genetic pain, not generational pain, genetic pain. Can't even get the expression right. God, I ask you. Oh. And now he's naming his daughter after her. Doesn't that tell you something? And also, of course, this terribly racist family that they had to flee from. And they're naming the child after two members of it. How singularly consistent. Diana Summers says, you've got to hand it to Meghan. She's the queen of PR. Yes, she is the queen of PR. I have been trying to point this out for some time now. There is no doubt in my mind that Meghan is the one who spotted the many layered possibilities that exist where calling her daughter Lilibet would be concerned. There are so many layers that I will only touch upon a few of them. It's a very readily identifiable name, so it's a very identifiable brand already. Great for merchandising down the line. Of course, they're going to do it subtly. At the very moment that they're denying what they're doing, they're going to be doing it, because we're dealing with denialists of the highest order. There's also the insult, the violation of the Queen's privacy, the contemptuousness. And I have received thousands of adverse comments, and I'm going to read out a few of them at the end of this video, because people are really very sympathetic to the plight of the Queen and the royal family. And I'm delighted to see it, because we are dealing with human beings, and we are dealing with human beings with feelings. And we are witnessing the most gloriously distasteful spectacle. It is an obscenity what we're witnessing. So on many layers, this is playing out, chief of which is, so you old woman thought that you were going to be able to get the better of me? Well, I've shown you who's getting the better of whom. And I've got news for you, old woman. It ain't you, it's me. I've got the better of you. And I've managed to purloin your treasured private nickname that very few people are allowed to use nowadays. And now I've cheapened it. Everybody's going to be able to use it. And I, who've never been allowed to call you Lilibet, am now going to have my own Lilibet. Lilibet, come here. Lilibet, sit down. Lilibet, you little monster. You need to know how to behave. Come on, Lilibet. When you drink tea, you don't hold your finger in. You cock it out, and you've got class. That's what you've got to do, Lilibet. You've got to have class. Wait for it. Gosh, the message is so contemptuous. It is indescribably contemptuous. And notice, on a day-to-day basis, they have stated they're going to be calling the child Lily. But everybody knows that when you have a child and you call it by a nickname, when you're reprimanding it or it is on the outs with you, you use the given name. So the given name is going to be the insult. Really rather clever. And it is brilliant in terms of PR. I mean, the woman is a genius. She absolutely is a genius at creating controversy. But that's also a sign of sociopathy. And that's also a sign of narcissism. Narcissistic personalities and sociopathic personalities create havoc wherever they go. And they have an absolute gift for grabbing everybody's attention. I know what I'm talking about. I had a mother like that. And let me tell you, Mummy could have learned a thing or two from Megsy baby. Zulema Butler says, I heard that Harry and Meghan have already patented the name of their daughter. Is that possible? Well, I don't think, my dear, that it's patented yet, but they have certainly registered various domain names, etc. Of course, in much the same way that they have sought privacy in California and therefore are on the front pages of newspapers several times a week. They will doubtless be assuring the world that they have done it to protect Lily, otherwise known as Lilibet. Watch your step. To protect Lilibet. That's what they're going to be doing. Not, of course, to march. Until, of course, we see the charitable things that are done in the name Lilibet. You wait for them. There are going to be lots of charitable enterprises that will be done. The one miscalculation on their part is that the Queen is 95. She's at the end of her life. 10 and 15 years from now, if the Queen is not here anymore, she will have been yesterday's woman. They only have a tiny window of opportunity to milk the name for all it's worth. But yes, it is possible to move as quickly as they did. They took steps to tie up the name the same day that the child was born. I wonder who gave the instructions, and from which bed, and from which location. So, Esther Opong says, I mean, if you look at the time between her miscarriage and then all of a sudden there's a baby bump, I was wondering how it happened. Very weird. Well, Esther Opong, I think normally babies are created when the male member is welcomed by the female member. Let's put it that way. So I would imagine that's how it happened, but I don't think that's the question you're actually asking. So I'm not going to be facetious. I'm going to get right to the heart of the matter. She had a miscarriage in July. The baby was born at the beginning of June. So let's figure it out. It should be 2 months minimum. It's August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. 9 months. It's just about possible. If indeed Meghan got pregnant. It's possible, just about. It also shows that, yet again, she is tremendously special, absolutely unique, the most wonderfully fertile woman that God put on this earth. I want a baby, God, and out pops the baby. I mean, even nature jumps to her command, not just Harry, and not just Sunshine Sacks, and not just all those idiots who seem to be falling for the act, but nature itself. Very impressive, my goodness. It's a wonder that she actually doesn't have 20 children or 30. If anybody who's that fertile and just pops them out on demand and I want to get pregnant and pow, there's the baby, sort of, oh, yes, here we go, oh, yes. Oh, I got pregnant yesterday. But it is physically possible. I think it's also usually not advised. But who knows with that couple, you know? Everything is so opaque, everything is so confused, everything is so scrambled, everything is so confusing. Janet Moselewski, or maybe it's Moselewski, because I notice it ends in the masculine and not the genitive. So it's most likely not the Polish pronunciation. So I'll go with the American pronunciation. Years ago on her blog, the Markle woman was talking about Catherine's wedding to William. She bitched about how it was endlessly discussed, quote unquote. Though, of course, later we were asked to believe she didn't know who Harry was. I know she's so innocent and it's authentic, and I just love him for himself. He don't need to be a prince, and I certainly don't need to be a princess and lead a princess life. No, we don't need all of that rubbish. To continue the question, she also said she wanted to be She-Ra, the Princess of Power. As they used to say in New York in the good old days, I gewalt geschrien, which means a yell and a shriek to God. I find it rather disturbing that a grown woman seems to have a habit of identifying with cartoon characters. Well, it is disturbing, but then I think we are dealing with a very disturbing individual. And I think it's all faux, sort of candy coating. It's all to hide her relentless ambition and to fox us into believing that she's just a sweet and regular little girl who just wants to save the world and fight evil, and one act of compassion at a time, lots of love, as long as she can slap everybody in the face, starting with the Queen. I think it is disturbing, and I think it says an awful lot about Meghan. And we will now go to some of the comments that people have written in. Tony Williams says, and this is a girl because it ends in I, they weren't allowed to copyright Sussex Royal, firing back that the Queen didn't own the word royal, so they turn around and copyright Lilibet. Seems like retaliation, and of the motto, when they hit, we hit back harder. Well, Tony Williams, you're very observant, but we need to remember that one of Rachel Zane's favourite sayings goes something like this, and evidently Meghan Markle has adopted it because, remember, Meghan and Rachel are sort of intermingled. Slap him once, slap him again. Oh, God, I have to tell you. The supreme distaste intermingled with the absolute farcicality of it all is this is distasteful entertainment. This is really rather upsetting, but it is grotesquely entertaining. I suppose this is the sort of latter-day version of gladiatorial fights, or maybe autos de fe, which would have been, you know, people used to love seeing heretics burnt at the stake. I think we are actually grotesquely absorbed by the complete bizarre nature of what Harry and Meghan come out with time and time again. And it is a natural phenomenon to actually be fascinated by the grotesque and by things that don't add up. And nothing that they say or do really adds up. I mean, why, for instance, would Buckingham Palace announce that the Queen did not give her permission for her nickname to be used if she had given it? I have to tell you, that's not the sort of thing that accidentally happens at the palace. This sort of announcement is cleared at the very highest level. You need to understand that. Anne Bernadette Mayer says, the Queen forbids the merchandising of Sussex Royal. So Lilibet arrives and they immediately license the name. Guess what's next? No. Anne Bernadette Mayer, would you like to tell me what's next? I don't think it's merchandising, do you? No. Very unworthy thought. I mean, we need to remember, Harry and Meghan are noble creatures. They're trying to save humanity. And while they're saving humanity, they're trying to, one act of compassion at a time, show us how much they love everybody. Starting with her father, then continuing with the Queen. Marion Goodwin says, using the name Lilibet smacks of their petulant, you don't own the word royal. Now saying, you don't own the name Lilibet and you can't stop us from using it. That's right. That's exactly what they've said. That's the exact message. And I am glad that people in their thousands have got it and have objected to it. Lindsay Rousseau says, this is Meghan's way of showing that the Queen doesn't own the word royal and does not own the name Lilibet either. Absolutely right. You would imagine that anybody who respected an elder member of their family would understand that a nickname is sacrosanct and it is not to be purloined, purveyed, and putrefied the way Harry and Meghan are doing. Christina Escobedo says, naming their child Lilibet is both psychological and emotional manipulation towards the Queen. Walking away, accusations of racism, criticism of the royal life is a direct hit to the Queen. Then they name their baby her private childhood nickname. It's a shameless roller coaster ride of manipulation towards a 95-year-old still in mourning. Yes, it is. And let us remember, she is still in mourning. I mean, what sort of a person figuratively punches like it's a punching bag an old lady who they're supposed to love, whose husband is dying and whose husband has died, and it's one a blow after. Someone also made the observation, and I'm not going to read it out as a question, because they did ask that the King and Queen of Spain, they said, had written in to Lilibet using the name Lilibet. Actually, they did not write in using the name Lilibet. They wrote to Aunt Lilibet, because the King and Queen of Spain are the equals of Queen Elizabeth II. And they therefore, but because of the generational difference, they call her Aunt Lilibet. But King Juan Carlos and Queen Sophia call her Lilibet. First of all, they're all cousins. Secondly, they're all equals. But there are very few people in the world now who are of an age to actually call the Queen Lilibet. There are a few more who, because of the generational difference, call her Aunt Lilibet. Monarchs and sometimes the monarch's children. But everybody else calls her Ma'am. Even cousins call her Ma'am. Non-royal cousins call her Ma'am. I just make that point for what it's worth. The whole thing is degenerating from farce into supreme distastefulness. Let us see how it ends. Let us see what happens. Harry has waded in, threatening legal action. I don't know what the basis of his legal action would be, because it's not defamatory to say that you named somebody without permission. So let's see what he comes up with. But I don't know how you feel, but I am beginning to feel not only supreme distaste, but defiled. And if I feel defiled, can you imagine how the family itself feels? And I would like to end on this note. If you have any regard for the Queen, Prince Charles, Prince William, and you sympathize with the predicament that they find themselves in, sign the petition. The more people who sign the petition is the more Harry will understand that this either must cease and he must desist, or he must then ask the Queen to release him from the prison of royalty. You will be doing everybody a great service. You will be doing Harry a great service. You'll be doing Meghan a great service. Can you imagine the possibilities Meghan's going to have when she's freed of the shackles of being the Duchess of Sussex? Her greatness is going to become even more apparent. She'll be just Meghan. You know, just Meghan, like Virgin Mary. I mean, the Virgin Mary didn't need a surname. She didn't need a title. And Meghan has already contemptuously said, you know, that she doesn't need titles, and, you know, she doesn't need to have the lifestyle of a princess. And I think, really, if you have any regard for everybody concerned, sign the petition. The more signatures the petition gets, is the more it has to be listened to. And it is the most honourable and desirable way of, to an extent, bringing this whole regrettable scenario to a close. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and keep the questions coming in. I'm sorry that there is such little time that I can't answer all of them, but I'm hoping to play catch up. Thanks and goodbye.